Hey guys, it's me Bonicila again. Talking today about the relationships that have been severed by Arsenal that have actually worked out for everybody. Relationship for number one is Lucas Torreira. I mean, the guy is not totally out of Arsenal's books because he's still a player for Arsenal. He's playing at Fiorentina. He has had basically, he arrived the same summer as Leno, that Unai Emery summer. And yeah, he had a good first season, I would say. Good at best. It was not a great first season. Played well, but I think he just couldn't make the adaptation to English culture and English football. And then in the middle of that, in 2020, obviously, beginning of 2020, Arteta comes in at the tail end of 2019, and the coach that he had been signed for gets fired just a month before Arteta comes in or so, right? So I think, Torreira struggled for personal reasons at Arsenal. It's nobody's fault. It's not Arteta kicking him out because he's a dictator. Some people call him that. It was just one of those things, It just made sense for Torreira to go back to Italy, a country that he had made his name in European football and he's playing for a coach who believes in him, and he's in a country that works out for him better than England because I think he understands Italian better than he understands English. The pace of the game probably, is a little bit different in Italy, and the tactical side of the game, which Torreira is a very smart tactical player, but not the most physical players. So, I'm so happy for him, very happy for him to be getting game time week in, week out. He's a starter for that team, and it looks like they want to buy him for about 15 million euros. It will be a loss for Arsenal in terms of like the financial investment they made in him, and selling him later for less than that. I don't know how much of a loan fee Arsenal collected for Torreira, but this is working out for everybody. Torreira will probably be worth more money this summer than he was last summer, and he'll be happier, and then Arsenal will also benefit from that. And then Fiorentina get a player that they've had a good test run with, and they're happy with. Okay, so that's that. That's, a case of separation that's gone well there. Matteo Guendouzi, similar, but Guendouzi's adaptation to English football was probably better than Torreira's. I think he could have made a career for himself at Arsenal, but, as the cultural evolution or revolution, whichever way you want to describe it, at Arsenal, which was very needed, by the way, started to take place. And Guendouzi was one of those players who, I don't think he was at the right place at the right time. Once Arteta came in, there was a clash of egos there, and I think Guendouzi is a good player, but like not a player worth the headache that appeared to be the headache he was causing, at that time. So, it's hard for me to make judgments on what Arteta did there, or Edu, or the whole club board, in deciding to let Matteo go. It will be a financial loss, but not because Arsenal paid more for him, like in the case of Torreira. It'll be a financial loss in that Arsenal are making a profit, but not as much profit as they could have had he left under better circumstances. They are getting something more for him than they paid for him, but it's definitely selling the guy almost like in a fire sale rather than selling him at market value for 11 million euros or something like that, or 10 million euros or 10 million pounds. Somewhere thereabouts is what Arsenal will end up fetching for Guendouzi, and it's not anywhere near where the player is worth. He's a France international, starts for Marseille, who is like now top 2, top 3 team, depending on which week you look at the league standings in France. So, but again, this is working out for Arsenal in that they have a player who was unhappy. Now they've moved him, and the player is playing in a club where, you know, he's trusted more by Sampaoli, and he is also, you know, playing football regularly and in a happier situation in his home country, where maybe, you know, he feels a lot more understood and supported and whatever, you know, the case may be. But he looks happier, he looks more himself, and that's working out. And then the last one is a bit more complex than the first two. And there's more cases like this, but like the Aubameyang is the one that's kind of like more difficult, in that Arsenal don't get anything for him. You know, in fact, fans, including myself, have been thankful for the fact that those of us who understand the circumstances that led to his departure, we've been thankful for the fact that he, you know, he created a situation, I guess, over time that became untenable for what Arsenal are trying to be culturally and as a footballing team and so forth. You know, like he got one of the best contracts in the history of the club. But the difficulty there was not about the money, because, you know, footballers get what the clubs believe they're worth in terms of salary. The problem with him was more, again, a cultural issue in terms of like there was no alignment in terms of his responsibilities and what was expected of him and what he was able to deliver on a consistent basis. And it's all in that departure statement. You know, when Arsenal decided to strip him of his captaincy early December, you know, they say, you know, very, very straight there, like this being the latest, or, you know, the most recent of his, I think the word they use is indiscretion or whatever. But like basically he became a guy that you couldn't trust, even though he was a captain, to basically set a behavioral standard that you expect from a captain at a club the size of Arsenal. But even a club in the Championship should expect more from their captain than what I believe was the case towards the end there for Auba. Now, whilst I understand the club's stance in this, I still feel, you know, for the human being that is Aubameyang, right? I mean, he, you know, like some people maybe don't have a tolerance for this, you know, like some people feel you get paid a lot of money, just do what you need to do. And, you know, again, to each their own, and I understand that position. I just don't take it personally, because I know that people, and as a person who works in education, you know, context matters. You know, context matters always. Now, this doesn't mean, you know, these players need to be given special treatment, which is why, for example, I'm okay with Arsenal deciding, you know, what they decided to do, because they were the ones making the investment in him. And if he's not living up to it, then, you know, the club has every right to make a decision to can him, and they decided to can him, and so now he's at Barcelona playing well, and a lot of people have been using that as a stick to beat down Mikel Arteta or the Arsenal Football Club community, the fans, and the club itself, like, you know, the board. And one such example of a person I'm talking about here is Piers Morgan. You know, he, more than anybody else, has been very vocal on this issue, talking mostly on the side of, you know, Arsenal screwed up, and look now what Aubameyang is doing for Barcelona, and blah 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 blah. And the one thing I'll say here is that, like, you know, talking about context again, Arsenal gave him a contract, I think, in the August of 2020. And Aubameyang didn't play like he did before that contract, even though this was not, the performances were not related to the contract. But in that period, there was a series of things that led to an unhappiness for him that maybe affected his performances. And I actually believe, not even maybe, I believe that affected his performances. He was not putting up the same numbers